There is tons of death in video games, not just in the mechanics, but the narratives too. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 video game deaths that left gamers in shock. Just a quick disclaimer. A, lots of spoilers in this video. This video is spoilerific. And B, obviously there are a lot more deaths out there, but these are the ones that we chose as a gameranx, whatever you want to call that entity. Number 10 is the death of Youssef in Assassin's Creed Revelations. And for that matter, the mission that followed. When you leave Youssef, you do it in hot pursuit, sailing for a Templar province, asking Youssef to protect Sophia, the love of the main character's life, from harm. And he did just that, but he paid dearly for it. This causes you to lead a large-scale assault on Amit's forces in the arsenal. Ultimately, Youssef's death was in vain, as Amit held Sophia hostage, and that full-scale assault ends in a way that ultimately has to take this into account, but that doesn't change Youssef's actions, and it doesn't make it hit any less hard. In fact, I think it makes it hit harder. He did everything, and I mean everything, that he could. Number 9 in Spec Ops The Line. For a long time, you believe that John Conrad is the bad guy. You feel like you're attempting to fight this charismatic, horrible person who's leading a broken-off faction of the US Army in many atrocities, but you end up finding him dead of a self-inflicted wound over the guilt over a failed evacuation in which many died. The Conrad you'd been fighting the whole game was essentially a hallucination caused by PTSD. Earlier in the game, you use white phosphorus and accidentally kill 47 civilians. The guilt over this, and attempting to project it onto Conrad himself, created a villain that was only in the protagonist's head. The real Conrad died after failing to do something good. Number 8, as Ellie had to defend herself from David in The Last of Us, the situation just gets more and more tense. In a way, it's obvious that from the start, it's David or Ellie when he locks the doors and starts the fire, telling her that she'll have to get the keys from him to get out. Number 7. After spending the entire game becoming acquainted with John Marston, the player has to defend the Marston Ranch. John plays as if he's going to defend them and catch up, but he knows that this is the last stand. Edgar and the US Army and the Bureau are obviously more than one man can handle, and he lays down his life so that his wife and children can escape. In fact, this event is what inspires the entire epilogue of the game, where his son Jack takes on the mantle and continues. Number 6 is Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, or Aerith depending on your personal preferences. Aerith is a person who makes the main character, Cloud, consider things beyond their own sphere. Cloud is a person who's helping out with various rebellious acts against an authoritarian corporation, and that doesn't even get him to really care. He's doing it for the money, but Aerith makes him think and makes him feel. And obviously the storyline branches as to who the love interest is, but regardless, when her death hits, it hits hard. The music, the sacrifice, the overarching feeling of dread that comes in when she doesn't stop everything. As far as I'm concerned, it's a huge moment, not just in Final Fantasy VII, but just in video games. Number 5, in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Venom Snake, due to an outbreak of the vocal parasite that threatens the entire world, Venom Snake has to venture into a quarantined area to stop the spread of the infection. Things quickly go wrong, and it becomes obvious that stopping the spread of infection means killing his own men, and lots of them. It's a mission that makes you choose between what is best for the world and your own individual feelings. Ultimately, there's only one real choice, but it shows just how far some will go for the greater good. This part of the game feels not just like a sacrifice or a murder, and in a lot of ways it resembles an overused zombie trope, but for whatever reason it's hard to shake. Is it that you built this team yourself, or is it that they go out of their way to make sure you know that all of them are people? Number 4 is the death of Cortana, and the goodbye between Master Chief and her. This has emotional impact because it seems final, but it turns out to be even worse. The good Cortana, so to speak, is the one that died. Fragments of her survived and had a plan basically to become an authoritarian nightmare. The good, as it turns out, loving Cortana, sacrificed herself, and it clearly broke Master Chief's heart. Number 3, when Dom kills his own wife in Gears of War. Dom's wife, Maria, spent the last stretch of her life after Emergence Day, where their children had died, simply grieving over her children and living in self-exile. She was eventually imprisoned, though, tortured and starved. Had been broken. She was a shell of a person, destined for death anyway. Dom spent his last moments with her apologizing and then euthanized her so she wouldn't feel the pain of dying anymore. This took a huge toll on him and essentially put him into a rage. Dom lost his kids and his wife, and it left him entirely traumatized. Number 2, at the beginning of Max Payne, bursting into the nursery and seeing your child's lifeless arm, trying desperately to save both his wife and baby, but the blanket over the baby is covered in blood. Hearing his wife, Michelle, screaming for her life, but being unable to do anything. These events set the tone of the entire game. He relives them, revisits them, and deals with them repeatedly. It's a really, really grim way to start a game, too.
And finally, number 1, Lee Everett from Walking Dead Season 1. This is a death that was hard to predict, but was also kind of inevitable. Lee was the protagonist of the season. The season, by every indication, throughout the course, seemed as if it was going to end in tragedy. But that doesn't change that when Lee was bit by a walker, and you have to choose whether to let him turn or to do him a mercy and shoot him. Either of those things is not a great fate, and it presents a tough moral dilemma that doesn't really allow you to feel good. You can also stay silent and allow the game to aggregate your choices throughout the story and make the choice for you, based on all of the interactions that Clementine and Lee had over the course of the game, which, by the way, makes either choice absolutely reeling. What video game death just utterly messed you up? Leave us a comment, let us know, and tell us how it made you feel. If you like this video, click like, and if you're not subscribed, now would be a good time to do so, because we upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.